The next thing we're going to look at is the string type. So types are a big thing in TypeScript, and even the name of the language came from that word of type, because one of the main features that you get with TypeScript is that you can give your variables and your object or everything that you're using, you can give them a type. And you saw that earlier when I showed you this example with the declaration of variable. I didn't show you how to type those variables, but there's a thing in TypeScript that infers the type of the variable depending on what you assign to it. So for instance, if I hover over the company, you can see that it's telling me that this is a string. And if I hover over Ismail, it's telling me it's Boolean, a lottery number, and so on. So here we're going to look at string type. So when you want to give your variable a type or your object a type in TypeScript, you're going to define it. So I'm going to say my name, for example, and then I put a colon and then I pass in the type. And this is going to be string type because name is usually a string. And then I can declare it like this. So I just declare it. I don't assign anything to it. And since I declared it as a string, I can't assign anything else other than the string to it. So for instance, if I say my name and then I set it equal to, let's say 99, that's going to give me an error. Because up here, I said, hey, the name is going to be of type string. So that means that I can't assign anything else other than the string to this variable. And you can see that it's telling me exactly that's what the problem is. However, if I change this to a string, then it works fine. And then I can put here my actual name. You can see it works fine. You can either do it like this. So you define the variable, you give it a type, and then somewhere down in the code, then you assign something to it. And you can also do this. So I can come here and I can say equal. I can pass in my name here again. That works just fine. I like to explicitly put the type in so that I make sure that this is a string, but that is just my style. But I've seen a lot of people just leave out this part because TypeScript is going to infer that this is a string anyway, because you're assigning a string to it. And you can also use double quote. So I can say my name and then set it equal to, I use double quote, and I can pass in my name here as well. That works just fine. You can use single quote or double quotes. And you can also use backtick. So I can go down and then I can say let, I'm going to define a new variable, and I can say it's something like car brand, and then set it equal to, I use backtick this time, and then I can say Acura. And you can see that works just fine. And if I put my cursor over here, you can see that it says this is a type string. So it infers, even though I'm using backtick, it infers that this is a string. And I could do this if I wanted. I could just say this is going to be of type string, and you can see that it works just fine. So typing your variable is very important. So I can give you a quick example. So I'm going to go up here, and then let's say I'm going to define a function, and we're going to look at function later, but I just want to give you an example. Let's say hello, for example, and then we're going to say this is going to take a name, and we want that name to be of type string. So we're typing the variable inside of the function, and we can even type the whole function. Those are things that we're going to look at later, but I just want to give you a quick example. So we're going to say this function is not going to return anything. So the return type is going to be void. And then here I can say console.log. I can use backtick. So I'm going to say hello and then do template string. So I'm going to do $, open and close curly braces. And then here I can pass in the name just like that. And then I can go down, and then I can call the function, so say hello, and then I can pass it my name, and that should work just fine. Now if I go ahead and run this file, you can see it says hello junior. But if I didn't have this type here, for instance, TypeScript is going to assume that this is a type any. So if I put my mouse over here, and it's giving me a warning that, you know, I don't have a type for this. And this is something you can change in the configuration if you just pass in something here and you don't want it to complain like that. Or you can just say, all right, this is going to be of type any. But by default, if you don't define the type of your variable, then it's going to assume it's type any. I can come down here and change this to a number, and it's not going to complain. And I can just run this. You're going to see it's going to print out just fine. Hello 55. But in your code, you probably don't want something like this. You want your function to take a name, and that's going to be a string. So you specify that it's going to be a string. And then here you're going to get an error at compilation because you're not passing a string here. But if I pass in a string, even though it's a number, but it's a string because it's in single quotes, then that works just fine. And I can go ahead and run the function. You can see it works just fine. So I'm gonna delete this function for now because I don't want to confuse you. But you can already see where this is going. But when you're defining a variable of type string, you can put the let keyword to define the variable, and then you put a colon, and then you put the type, which in this case, we're looking at string. And you can put single quote, you can put double quote, and you can put backtick. And backtick is also very useful because you can do template literal with it. You can include actual variable inside of the string itself, which I use a lot when I'm coding. So this is how you type something as a string in TypeScript.